She was 132 pounds, yoga 3 times a week, salads on rotation. Last Tuesday, Sarah collapsed in her own kitchen. And what they found wrapped around her organs should terrify every slim person watching this. This video is for educational purposes only. Information shared here is general and not personal medical advice. Results vary. Always consult a qualified physician before making changes to your diet, exercise routine, or any health protocol. The fat that nearly killed Sarah was not the kind she could pinch. It was not on her thighs. It was not on her arms. It was hidden, deep, wrapped around her liver, invisible to her mirror, invisible to her scale. It has a name. Doctors call it visceral fat. Recent research suggests 1 in 5 adults with a perfectly normal weight are quietly carrying enough of it to triple their dementia risk and double their heart attack risk. They look fit. They feel fine. Their BMI lands inside the safe zone. But underneath that calm surface, an invisible fire is squeezing their liver, smothering their pancreas, and quietly rewiring their brain. Every single hour, every single day. The cruelest part, most of them will die before anyone catches it, because nothing on a standard checkup tests for this fat, nothing on a bathroom scale measures it, and almost no general doctor warns patients about it. In the next 20 minutes, I will show you what this hidden fat actually does inside a slim body, why your doctor probably has not checked for it, and the 4-step protocol that begins to dissolve it. Within weeks, I'm Dr. Vita. For years, I have sat across from patients who were told they were perfectly healthy until suddenly they were not. Today, we open the body up, we look behind the skin, we name what is quietly killing the safe before we go further. Take a moment, stand up, glance at your reflection. If your stomach looks flat, if your weight has been steady for years, if your jeans still fit, listen carefully. This warning may be exactly for you because this fat does not need a big belly to hide. It does not need obesity. It does not need a scale that screams. It only needs 3 quiet conditions, and almost every modern adult lives inside all 3 of them. Condition 1, stress. Cortisol, surging through the body day after day, week after week, telling the cells around your organs to hold on to every spare calorie as if a famine were coming any minute. It never comes. The fat stays. Condition 2, poor sleep. Less than 7 hours, broken nights, late screens, restless waking. Studies suggest sleep loss alone shifts where your body chooses to store fat, pushing it deeper away from the skin, closer to the organs. Condition 3, a quiet, sedentary life, not laziness. Just modern life. Desks, cars, couches, 12 hours a day on a chair you barely notice. The body interprets stillness as scarcity, and scarcity as a reason to hoard fat. 3 conditions, none dramatic, none loud. Most of you watching meet at least 2 of them today. Many of you meet all 3. And that is exactly how a flat-stomached, normal-weight adult quietly becomes a high-risk patient. There's a name for this body. Researchers call it skinny fat, outside, slim. Inside, dense with fat surrounding the heart, the liver, the intestines. The mirror lies, the scale lies, the clothes lie. The body underneath tells the only true story. Maria came to me last spring. 42 years old, size 4, she ran a half marathon in the autumn. Her doctor cleared her every year for 10 straight years. She came to me because of one symptom. She was always tired, foggy, cranky in the afternoons, bloated after dinner, tiny things her doctor had brushed away as stress, perimenopause, life. We ran a deeper scan. The image came back, and Maria stared at it for a long time. Around her liver, around her pancreas, around her intestines, sat a thick yellow web of fat. From the outside, she was small. From the inside, her organs were buried. She asked me one question, and her voice cracked. How did nobody catch this? The honest answer hurt me to say. Nobody caught it because nobody looked. The tools most doctors use, the scale, the BMI chart, the waist guess, were never built to find this fat. They were built for the obvious. And visceral fat is the opposite of obvious. It is the patient version of cancer's first stage, quiet, hidden, asymptomatic until the day it is not. By the time it tells you it is there, the diagnosis is already in motion. Now listen, you're not stupid for missing this. You're not careless. You did everything you were told. The system simply never told you to look here. The system pointed at scales. The system pointed at calories. The system pointed at outer body shape and called that health. And while you watched the surface, the real damage was happening in the place no surface measurement can reach. Until now, because in the next minutes that changes. I'm going to teach you the same thing I teach my patients on day one. How to find this fat without a scan, how to know if it is already inside you, and how, gently and steadily, to begin removing it. But first, you need to understand the enemy. Because if you do not understand what visceral fat actually does, you will never give the protocol the patience it deserves. So let us open the body up, and let us begin. Imagine your skin as a soft outer layer, underneath a layer of muscle. Underneath that muscle, the cavity holding your organs, liver, pancreas, stomach, intestines. This deep cavity is where visceral fat lives, not under your skin around your life. Subcutaneous fat, the fat you can pinch, the fat that wobbles, the fat most people are ashamed of, is mostly harmless. It sits politely under your skin, it cushions you. It does not whisper to your immune system. It does not poison your liver. Visceral fat is different. Visceral fat is not passive padding. Visceral fat behaves like an organ. It manufactures hormones. It releases chemical messengers. It speaks to your immune system, your brain, your blood vessels, and almost everything it says is harmful. Think of it as a small chemical factory installed deep inside your body without your permission. Every shift, every day, every hour, this factory pumps out signals called cytokines. Those cytokines are the closest thing biology has to a slow-burning fire. Cytokines are inflammation made into a molecule. In small bursts after an injury, they are life-saving. They call your immune cells to a wound and help you heal. But pumped out hour after hour, year after year, they stop healing and start damaging. Here's what almost no one is told. The fat under your skin is mostly silent. The fat around your organs is screaming. It is screaming inflammation into every system in your body, and your body has no way to make it stop. Picture your liver, the single most important detox organ in your body. Now picture it wrapped in a yellow blanket of visceral fat. Every day that blanket leaks fatty acids and inflammatory signals straight into the liver like a slow chemical drip. Your liver tries to keep up, it works overtime. But over months and years, the constant drip turns the liver fatty itself, not from drinking, not from drugs, from visceral fat. Doctors suggest non-alcoholic fatty liver disease has become startlingly common in slim adults. Now picture your pancreas, the small organ that makes the insulin controlling your blood sugar. Visceral fat sits next to it, dripping the same inflammatory signals into it day after day. The pancreas, exhausted, slowly stops responding properly to its own signals. This is how insulin resistance is born in skinny bodies. Not from sugar alone, not from genes alone, from hidden fat sabotaging the very organ that is supposed to protect you from sugar. And insulin resistance is the doorway to type 2 diabetes. Studies suggest men with high visceral fat are roughly 16 times more likely to develop diabetes or prediabetes than men with low visceral fat, even when their weight, their BMI, and their cholesterol all look perfectly normal on paper. 16 times. Read that again. Now lift your gaze from the pancreas to the heart. The same inflammatory drip travels there. It coats the inside of your blood vessels with sticky deposits. It weakens the walls. It makes the plaques inside those vessels more likely to rupture. This is the heart attack nobody saw coming. The marathon runner who collapses, the vegetarian who codes, the slim banker whose autopsy stuns the family. Their cholesterol was fine. Their weight was fine. But the inflammation inside them had been working for years, and it does not stop at the heart. The same cytokines travel up to your brain. They cross the blood-brain barrier. They settle into the regions responsible for memory and learning. They quietly speed up the deposit of beta amyloid, the protein found in Alzheimer's brains. Researchers suggest middle-aged adults with high visceral fat are roughly 3 times more likely to develop dementia later in life. 3 times. The people most at risk are not the heaviest patients. They are often the slim ones whose fat hides where no scan looks. Visceral fat also speaks to your hormones. It raises cortisol. It lowers testosterone in men. It disrupts estrogen balance in women. It steals from your sleep, your libido, your mood, your motivation. The tiredness Maria described was visceral fat speaking through her hormones. It also speaks to your gut. It changes the bacteria living inside your intestines, killing the helpful strains, feeding the harmful ones. Studies suggest a sick gut feeds back into more visceral fat, a quiet circular trap that gets tighter every year. While all of this is happening, your reflection in the mirror does not change. Your jeans still fit. Your scale still smiles back. This is the deep cruelty of visceral fat. The damage is real. The warning signs are silent. The clock is loud only inside. Now you understand why I call this the body's quietest betrayal. There is no pain, no swelling you can see, no bruise. The body is not screaming on the outside. The body is screaming on the inside into organs, hormones, blood vessels, brain tissue. And there's one more thing you need to understand before we move on. Visceral fat is biologically active. It is not just sitting there, it is multiplying. It recruits more fat cells. It builds more inflammatory factories. It expands its own territory inside you. Left alone, visceral fat does not stay the same size. It grows slowly year after year. The 40-year-old with a small layer becomes the 45-year-old with a thick layer becomes the 50-year-old in the cardiology ward asking how this happened. This is why time is not on your side. Every year of stress, every year of poor sleep, every year of sitting still, every year of ultra-processed meals deepens the layer. Every year you wait to find out is a year the layer wins. But, and this is the part to hold on to, visceral fat also responds to action faster than almost any other fat in your body. It listens to behavior, it listens to movement, it listens to food, it listens to sleep. Many of my patients begin reducing visceral fat within 4 to 6 weeks of starting a sensible protocol. Not because they did anything extreme, because they finally did the right things in the right order. Visceral fat melts when the right pressure is applied. Before I show you that protocol, you need to see the evidence, the studies, the patient outcomes. The numbers that explain why I sit my patients down and tell them with full seriousness, this is the most important thing they can change this year. Because once you see the size of the risk, the protocol stops looking like advice. It starts looking like a rescue plan. And visceral fat caught early is one of the most rescuable conditions in modern medicine. So let us look at the evidence, and as we look at it, remember Maria, slim, athletic, tired, foggy, bloated, 42, cleared by 10 years of doctors, with a yellow web around her organs that nobody had thought to look for. Maria is not unusual. Maria is the rule, not the exception. Maria is sitting in offices everywhere right now, being told her labs look fine. Maria is half of the slim adults I see in my practice. And before this video ends, you will learn how not to become her. Some of you watching will already see yourselves in Maria. The tiredness, the fog, the bloat after dinner, the afternoon crash, the feeling of doing everything right and still feeling wrong. Those signals matter. They are the body whispering before it screams, and whispers are when this is most reversible. Whispers are when the protocol works fastest. Whispers are when patients leave my office a year later glowing, not because they lost 20 pounds, but because they gained 15 years of their lives back. Now, the evidence in the New England Journal of Medicine, one of the most respected publications in the field, researchers tracked more than 350,000 European adults for years. Their finding was simple, brutal, and almost everyone outside medicine has missed it entirely. Excessive visceral fat measured by waist size, not weight, nearly doubled the risk of dying early. Doubled it. Independent of BMI, independent of cholesterol, independent of smoking, the fat around the organs was its own death risk factor, separate from every other measurement. 350,000 people, years of follow-up across multiple countries. The data was so strong it changed the way some clinicians screen for risk. And yet today, most patients still walk into a checkup and never have their waist properly measured. In another large study, women in midlife with the largest waists were more than twice as likely to develop heart disease compared to women with the smallest waists. Even after researchers adjusted for blood pressure, cholesterol, smoking, and BMI, the waist itself told the story. Adding just 2 inches to your waist over the years suggests roughly a 10% increase in heart disease risk in healthy women. 2 inches, the kind of change you barely notice in your genes, the kind your doctor never circles in red on a chart. Studies suggest people with the highest levels of visceral fat are roughly 3 times more likely to suffer a stroke than those with the lowest levels. And those strokes happen earlier in life, sometimes much earlier, sometimes in the years we still call young. On the brain side, the data is even more haunting. A landmark imaging study found middle-aged adults with high visceral fat showed significantly more beta-amyloid plaques in their brains. Beta-amyloid is the sticky protein at the heart of Alzheimer's disease, already there, decades early, triple the risk of dementia. From a fat you cannot see, from a fat your scale does not measure, from a fat that may be growing in you right now, while you watch this video, while you doubt me, while you scroll past the warning. Then there's metabolic risk. Studies suggest roughly 68% of adults with high visceral fat have high blood pressure. In the lower fat group, the rate drops to about 43%. The difference is enormous, and almost no one connects the two on a chart. Visceral fat is also strongly linked with cancer. Researchers suggest higher visceral fat is associated with increased risk of colorectal, breast, prostate, ovarian, and endometrial cancers. People with the highest levels are roughly 3 times more likely to develop precancerous colon polyps, and the inflammation. Studies suggest chronic, low-grade inflammation, the kind visceral fat manufactures and releases, is involved in roughly 75% of all deaths in developed countries, 3 out of 4. Almost every chronic disease ending a modern life has inflammation at its root. Now stop, sit with that for a moment. We have spent decades telling slim people they were safe. We have spent decades blaming weight, blaming numbers on a scale, blaming visible body shape. The deeper truth was hiding underneath, in the body of the slim the whole time. The thin marathoner, the slim accountant, the size 6 teacher, they were never automatically safe. They were carrying the same inflammatory engine, often hidden more dangerously, because no one, including them, ever thought to look. The story of weight and health was wrong on its biggest assumption, and it is not only researchers saying this. Cardiologists, endocrinologists, longevity specialists, many now openly admit waist size and visceral measurement matter more than BMI in predicting who will live, who will struggle, and who will silently develop the diseases nobody saw coming. In one striking study, researchers showed that low-grade inflammation is roughly twice as common as high cholesterol in modern adults, twice as common. Yet cholesterol gets all the attention. Cholesterol gets the medication. Inflammation gets a quiet shrug and a vague comment about lifestyle. The CANTOS trial, a major cardiology study, found that treating low-grade inflammation in patients who had already had a heart attack reduced their risk of further heart attacks, strokes, and even death. The treatment did not lower their cholesterol, it only lowered the inflammation, and it worked. Older research, looking at the indigenous Shuar people of the Amazon, found almost none of them carried chronic inflammation in their blood, while in industrialized countries, roughly one-third of all adults do. Researchers have called this a disease of affluence. A modern disease and modern lives breed visceral fat, long sitting hours, constant stress, poor sleep, ultra-processed food. Industrial seed oils, sugar in the morning, sugar disguised as healthy snacks that look harmless but spike insulin, drinks that look harmless but feed the liver. The modern day on repeat. You do not need to be obese to live a modern life. You do not need to be heavy to drink the same coffee, eat the same lunch, sit through the same meetings, and lie awake at the same midnight. The lifestyle is universal. The fat builds quietly anyway. This is why I told you in the beginning that this video may be exactly for you, not because I think you're sick, because I know how unfairly invisible this risk is, because I have watched too many patients arrive too late, because the warning is rarely given. Now, let me give you the warning signs your body is already whispering, not the dramatic ones, the small ones, the whispers most patients ignore for years. If you notice 3 or more of these in your own life, please listen carefully to what comes after. 1. Persistent fatigue, especially in the afternoons. 2. A soft, round lower belly, even when you're slim everywhere else. 3. Bloating that worsens through the day. 4. Brain fog. 5. Trouble losing weight in the midsection. 6. Poor sleep without obvious cause. 7. Cravings for sugar or starch in the early evening. 8. High blood pressure that nobody can quite explain. 9. Borderline blood sugar readings on routine tests. 10. A waist measurement creeping up by ½ an inch a year, even when your weight stays steady. None of these alone are proof. None of these alone are diagnosis, but 3 or more persistent in someone who looks slim. That is a clinical pattern. That is the pattern Maria walked into my office with. That is the pattern the modern checkup almost never names. Now, the test. The test almost no doctor will give you, but you can do at home in 30 seconds. Stand up, take a measuring tape. Wrap it around your waist at the level of your belly button. Do not suck in, do not compress. Read the number honestly. For women, a waist circumference at or above 35 inches suggests elevated visceral fat. For men, the line sits at or above 40 inches. These thresholds are general guidelines, not personal diagnosis. Your doctor can confirm with proper imaging if needed. The tape itself is enormously useful. There is a second measure too. Waist to height ratio. Take your waist measurement in inches and divide it by your height in inches. If the result is above 0.5, meaning your waist is more than half your height, visceral fat may already be elevated. Many of my patients are surprised to learn they cross this threshold despite being slim everywhere else. The waist-to-height ratio is one of the most predictive simple measurements in modern preventative medicine. It costs nothing. It needs nothing. Only honesty, a tape, and 30 seconds. If your numbers are above the thresholds, please do not panic. Visceral fat is one of the most responsive types of fat in the entire body. It came from behavior, and it leaves through behavior. The protocol I'm about to share has helped hundreds of my patients shrink it. And the protocol is not extreme. It does not require expensive equipment. It does not require fasting until you faint. It does not require a strict bodybuilder diet. It only requires 4 steady levers applied in the right order, for long enough to let your body listen. Lever number 1, strength training, twice a week. 30 to 40 minutes, compound movements, squats, hinges, presses, rows, using weights that challenge you in the last few repetitions. This is the single most powerful intervention against visceral fat we currently know of. Strength training builds muscle. Muscle burns glucose. Muscle improves your insulin response. Muscle pulls fat, including visceral fat, out of storage and into use. Unlike endless cardio, strength training continues to burn fuel long after you have left the gym, while you sleep, while you rest. You do not need to be a bodybuilder. You do not need a fancy gym. 2 short, focused strength sessions a week, applied for 16 weeks, suggest measurable visceral fat reduction in the majority of consistent patients. 2 sessions, 16 weeks? The simplest, powerful change you may ever make. If you're new to strength training, please begin slowly, work with a qualified trainer if possible, and check with your doctor first, especially if you have any existing condition. Form matters more than load. Patience matters more than ego. Steady wins this game. Lever number 2, fiber and protein at every meal. Not low fat, not low calorie, not no carb, fiber and protein. Beans, lentils, vegetables, whole grains, eggs, fish, lean meats, dairy if tolerated, legumes, seeds. Real food filling you slowly and feeding the gut microbes that fight inflammation. Fiber slows the rise of glucose in your blood. Protein keeps you full and protects your muscle. Together, they reduce the insulin spikes, driving visceral fat storage. Studies suggest people who add roughly 30 grams of fiber daily lose visceral fat measurably faster than those who do not. Every meal you replace ultra-processed food with whole food. You reduce 2 of the biggest visceral fat drivers, refined sugar and industrial seed oils. The shift does not have to be perfect. Even 3 real meals a day, most days, reshapes the body's internal chemistry over months. Lever number 3, sleep, real sleep, 7 to 9 hours in a dark, cool room with a steady bedtime. Studies suggest people who sleep less than 6 hours a night accumulate visceral fat measurably faster than those who sleep 7 to 9, even on identical diets. Sleep is when your body controls cortisol, regulates insulin, repairs cells, and burns visceral fat at its highest rate of the day. Skip sleep, and you take away the body's strongest natural fat-burning window. Many of my patients lose more visceral fat from sleep alone than from diet change. If you struggle with sleep, please take it seriously. Block screens an hour before bed, cool the room, reduce evening alcohol, stop caffeine after midday, aim for the same bedtime every night. These small adjustments suggest measurable hormonal change within 2 to 3 weeks of consistent practice. Lever number 4. Stress regulation, not stress avoidance, stress regulation, daily walk, slow breathing, time outside, time off devices, time with people who make you laugh. Practices that lower cortisol, the master hormone telling your body to store fat exactly where you do not want it. Here is the mistake almost every patient makes. They try to fix everything at once. They start a new diet, a new gym plan, a new sleep ritual, a new meditation app, all on the same Monday. 2 weeks later, they quit. The visceral fat wins again. The right way is the patient way. Pick one lever this week. 1, strength training, or fiber and protein, or sleep, or stress. Master it for 2 weeks before adding the next. By month 4, you have all 4 levers running together, and the fat has nowhere to hide. This is the protocol that changed Maria's life. Within 12 weeks, her energy returned, her bloating eased, her brain fog cleared, her waist measurement dropped 2.5 inches. And on her next deep scan, the yellow web around her organs had visibly retreated. Within a year, Maria's blood markers, fasting insulin, inflammation markers, liver values had moved from borderline concerning to comfortably healthy. She did not become a different person. She did not lose dramatic weight on the outside. She simply rescued the body she already had. This is the part I want every viewer to understand deeply. Visceral fat is not a punishment. It is a signal. It tells you what your body has been quietly absorbing: the stress, the sleep loss, the modern food, the long stillness. It is the receipt of a modern life. Every receipt can be paid down, slowly, steadily, without panic, without crash diets, without giving up the things that make life worth living. The body is more forgiving than you think when you stop fighting it and start cooperating with it. That is what the protocol does. A few extras worth knowing. Limit alcohol to a few drinks a week, ideally fewer. Reduce sugary drinks completely, walk after meals. Even 10 minutes after dinner reshapes your blood sugar curve. Get sunlight in the morning. Hydrate properly. Each one is a small, steady ally. Some of my patients also explore intermittent eating windows, for instance, finishing dinner by 8 and not eating again until breakfast. This is not for everyone. It is not safe in pregnancy, in eating disorder recovery, in some medical conditions. Please ask your doctor before adopting any timed eating approach. And of course, do not begin any new supplement, medication, or aggressive diet change without a qualified medical professional involved. The protocol I have outlined is built on the most consistent, broadly safe pillars in the research, but your body is unique and personal medical guidance always wins. What you should walk away with today is this: visceral fat is real, visceral fat is hideable, visceral fat is dangerous. Visceral fat is also reversible, quickly, gently, and without drama. When the 4 levers are pulled in the right order, with patience and consistency, you do not need to be afraid. You need to be informed. You do not need to panic. You need to begin. The body that has carried you this far is willing to help you for the next half of your life. It only needs you to listen. And the very first act of listening is the tape measure. Tonight, before you sleep, stand up. Wrap the tape around your waist, read the number, write it down. That number is the start line. Whatever it says, this is the moment your visceral fat began to lose. Because awareness is the thing visceral fat cannot survive. It survived this long because nobody looked. Once you look, once you measure, once you act, its time is counted. The patients who measure regularly almost always win the long game. Now, one final warning. This warning is for the people who feel called by this video and still want to wait. Want to start next month? Want to start after the holidays? Want to start when life is calmer? Visceral fat does not wait. Visceral fat compounds. Visceral fat earns interest in damage. Every year you delay, the inflammatory factory inside you grows a little bigger. The cytokines pump a little longer. The plaque inside your vessels thickens a little more. The beta amyloid in your brain rises a little higher. None of it is loud. All of it is real. By the time the body finally speaks loudly, the heart attack, the stroke, the diagnosis, the moment in the doctor's office where the room goes quiet, the conversation has already lasted years. Today is when you change the conversation. Tomorrow is harder. So please do not wait. Pick one lever, pull it tonight, walk after dinner, sleep an hour earlier, buy a measuring tape. Add a fistful of vegetables to lunch tomorrow. Begin small, begin imperfect, begin tired, begin scared, but begin. Visceral fat loses to anyone who simply begins. And if you have loved a parent, a spouse, a sibling, a friend, lost to a heart attack, a stroke, a sudden diagnosis, let this video be the moment you choose not to leave the same legacy. Choose differently. The body is listening. The window is open. Listen carefully. You're not too late. You're not too far gone. You're not beyond help. The patients who walk out of my office in the best shape of their lives almost always started exactly where you are right now: tired, skeptical, carrying years of bad advice. They started tired. They started skeptical. They started carrying years of bad advice and confusion. They ended up healthier in their 50s and 60s than they had been in their 30s because they finally understood the enemy. And the enemy was never the scale. The enemy was the silent fat nobody named. Once you name it, you can fight it. Once you measure it, you can shrink it. Once you understand it, you can outsmart it. That work begins the moment this video ends. So let us make sure the work begins. If this video helped you see your body differently, please subscribe to this channel. I post a new deep dive every week, the kind of medical truth that almost never makes it into a normal checkup. Subscribing is how I find the people who actually want to know, and in the comments below, I want to hear from you. Tell me your tape measurement. Tell me which of the 4 levers you're going to start with this week. Strength, food, sleep, or stress. Pick one. Tell me. Your comment may inspire someone else. One final note. Share this video with one slim person in your life. One, the friend who looks fine, the parent who insists they are healthy, the sibling who runs marathons. They probably have not heard this warning. They probably should. One share could save one life. I'm Dr. Vita. Take care of the body. Nobody else is checking. Measure the fat. Nobody else is naming. And remember, the safest looking bodies are sometimes the ones quietest in their suffering. I will see you in the next deep dive. Until then, please be well.